Hello, everybody. Thank you for your support of Indie Agency News. And let's meet an indie agency. We head out to one of my hometowns, Denver, Colorado. Christian is out there. And then Michael is in South Carolina. What, you didn't say where in South Carolina, though.
No, I didn't.
So can you specify? Okay, nice. All right, so we're getting off on the right foot here. So Charleston. Okay. Justine's was one of my favorite restaurants. I'm not sure it's around anymore.
There is an endless supply of great restaurants. I haven't tried that one, but I've tried the others and have 20 years to prove it.
Yeah, I think Justine's closed down, but yeah, great city. We did a trip to Savannah and then into Charleston, and oh God, just absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. But we are here to talk about Øuterkind. And I want to explain the O with the, I don't even know what it's called with the O with the slash in it. It's Nordic, or German, or, up north. So walk us through the name and when the agency was founded and a little bit of background of the agency.
Michael, please elaborate on the Danish minuscule on our behalf.
Oh, okay.
I think that and I didn't even know that's what it was called, but I think that the design of the O is connected very much to sort of the philosophy of when we started the company. I mean, Christian and I have come from a long history in the advertising marketing space, whether it's Christian on the experiential side or mine in kind of the multinational IPG, Gray Global Group, et cetera. And when we started this company, we sort of felt like, all right, this thing has got to be unusual, business unusual, which is kind of our ethos. And so the idea of just sort of crossing out what may have been the norm, what may have been the expected, what may have been the easy, and frankly, what may have been the stuff that we did before was all encapsulated by, this icon that we felt was taking what's traditional of an O and putting a simple line through it that adds, we think, some tension in the logo, but also reflects the tension that we try and put in the work.
Oh, I like that. And you share that kindredness. I don't think that's really actually a word, with opinionated, with the umlauts. So opinionated out in Portland. So yes. Well played. Now, remind me, what year was the agency founded?
2021.
Wow. Okay. So you're babies.
November of 2021. Yeah.
Okay. November of 2020. Just to be November of 2020. It was born out of the pandemic.
Well, I was just going to say, after January 2020, everything's kind of a blur.
Yeah,
I get it. Now, what would you say the agency is best known for?
I mean, that depends on who you're talking to. We have an interesting diversification of what we do. There are many clients that know us, as Michael said, for our experiential chops. There are others that know us for our social and ambassador and content work. And then there's others, as Michael alluded to, that work with us in an above the line traditional advertising or digital advertising space. So what are we known for? It depends on who you're talking to, but it's one of those three most likely. I think we're also known probably as the instigators of change. I don't want to get too poetic with it, but when we're typically brought into the table, most clients will know that we're going to bring them something that's curious, regardless of the tactic, something that's going to push boundaries. That's what we kind of love about it.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. I mean, you touched on a couple of things. Dig into a little bit more about the core strengths, and what would you say are the three? Because listen, every agency has a very long list of things that they're good at, but there are certain things that float to the top. You've mentioned experiential. You've mentioned a few of these things. How would you galvanize that, and what you would consider your top three core strengths?
Well, Michael said something at the outset of this called business unusual. And it's not just a mantra, it is the way that we think about things. And so, we have a philosophy here that we don't believe in event marketing.
Interesting.
We prefer to think of ourselves as experience architects. And again, not just simple nomenclature change, but when you think about what that means from the thinking beyond the four walls of the experience, what happens before, what happens during, what is the call to action, what's the ask, and then how do we communicate post live experience and ensure that there's no dead ends in those communications. And so to me, that is not at all event marketing. That is truthfully architecting an experience from cradle to grave, so to speak, from start to finish, and thinking about things in more of a linear fashion. And so if you unpacked experiential, that to me is sort of what that would mean.
Right. Because it's very easy to be broad
Yeah.
because experiential, at least as a practice and as a term, I think we all can agree that there is sometimes dilution, not delusion. There's that also, but dilution of terms and labels in this industry. And I think that's smart that you're looking at this because it's very easy to say, well, it's experiential. Well, how can you explain that? I don't know. It just feels like it. So I would have to assume that a brand that is looking for something like that, being able for you to be able to articulate that in such a way that's very compact but also impactful would be a huge plus. What do you hear from your clients in that respect?
Well, we hear a lot of, gee, we didn't think about that.
Oh, okay.
We just thought this was a trade show and we needed some walls and some screens and some people to touch stuff. And we're not thinking about the long-term impact or effect that it has on the consumer or guest within that space. And that could be, B2C or B2B. It really doesn't matter in that capacity. So I think our clients appreciate that we're not just thinking about the 9 to 5 of the event activation itself, and that we're thinking about things with a creative thread that runs through it from start to finish. That was something we heard from Caterpillar many times. It's what we've heard from M&M's consistently with some of the work that we're doing with them. And look, it's not an approach that fits every solution, right? It's an approach that most people, I would say 80 or 90% of the people we work with appreciate to its core. And there's others that are like, we just need some help with this, trade show thing. Can you help us with that? And that's okay. Like, it's not a one size fit all strategy for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, I would just add to that. I think there's pros and cons to it. I mean, I think that, I like to think as an industry, we've evolved from very specific tools for very specific jobs where I need a organic social agency. I need an event agency.
Right.
I need an ad agency. And I think that the challenge for people that go through the traditional means of finding an agency, either by a consultant or by an RFP or by whatever it is, are trying to put agencies into traditional boxes by saying, yeah, I know you do a lot of stuff, but like, what's the one thing you do really, really well? And as the media landscape has evolved, and I think frankly, like the watering holes continue to dry up a little bit, which makes just a whole lot more tension around the ones that are there. What we've tried to do is focus on outcomes. Christian, I think, talked about experiences and creative and all of these things that are the way to do it. But the thing that we do at the very end better than anybody else is we solve business problems with creative solutions that engage your target. The business is still at the core of it. We care about our business equally to caring about your business. And so when we can measure it, when we can prove our value, when we really understand the macro objectives that a CMO or CEO or whoever it is trying to deal with, whether it's short-term sales or long-term equity or entering new categories or innovation or new channels, there's no singular tactic that will address those types of big problems. It really is a holistic look with an outcome in mind. And I think that's the thing that we do exceptionally well, that gets us up in the morning, but also adds a tremendous amount of provable value to our clients.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Let's move on to being independent. Michael, you and I, fellow IPG alumni.
Secret handshake.
Yeah. Did you get your leather jacket?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the one I actually first got was chambray with a fake white sort of Naugahyde sleeve with a agency logo on it. That was a nice item.
Oh, that was before Philippe. That's definitely
that was a nice item.
Yeah, that's pre-Philippe.
Yeah.
I'm kidding. Well, no, I'm not kidding about that, but yeah, no, that's funny. Why is being indie so important? Why is that such a big deal to you and the agency?
I mean, I think that being independent is, again, like most things, has trade-offs. we live and die by what our team puts into it. We are not, there's no cavalry of a stock to chase, or thousands of other employees around the world to help feed business to. You're on your own, but with that comes the entrepreneurial spirit that we think also drives the very best work. I think the idea of being independent lets you move and change and start to course correct with a whole lot more agility. We see this in the brands that we serve. Smaller, nimble, startup types of brands are really the ones that are, in some cases, outsmarting the biggest older legacy brands. And so for big companies, they're trying to act small, and for small companies trying to figure out the infrastructure to be big. I think we want to be big enough to handle whatever clients look at us with at scale, but not lose the spirit of being independent and the ability to pivot as the market dictates.
Right. Christian, anything to add?
Yeah, I would add, Michael and I are 2 of 5 partners at Øuterkind, and we've all had our own experiences with non-independent and in some cases independent shops. And Michael was our former CEO at our former agency. And I do recall the bags under his eyes being a little bit darker in those days. And
Sure.
and just from a functional standpoint, you asked us what are the 3 things, and we came back with 2, and I think this ties into that question. Being nimble and agile and being able to dive into the real creative work that we got into this business to do in the first place. We often talk about those days when we didn't have senior level responsibilities or financial acumen to make core decisions on the trajectory of the business, and it's when we really loved our jobs. And I think one of the fundamental parts that separates Øuterkind is we love this shit.
Yeah,
we really do. And being independent and being able to make those decisions, being agile, not waiting for tomorrow when you can do it today, is a hallmark of what we do. And that sort of feeds into that independentness that I think we all love and appreciate.
Yeah, no, I get that. You've touched on a few things. What's the main reason a brand should work with you guys?
We solve the problem in front of them in I think a very in a very broad way, looking at the problem behind the problem. We're not an agency that's just throwing tactics at it. We stand behind the results. I think that's probably the biggest that, from an accountability perspective. I think that's one. I think we're also just a joy to work with. We're passionate.
I like that.
Passionate about the business. Like, when we first jumped on here before, you started recording, one of the things you talked about was the process of finding an agency. And it's not unlike finding a partner, someone you want to hang out with. Like, the first thing is, do I like you? The second is, do I trust you? Now give me your capabilities.
Right.
As opposed to the other side, if we can do all these things, great, but I may not actually like you. And I think that's proven by, the way that we generate new business. I would say 90% of it is from people that we've worked with in the past, either working with us again or referring us to someone else that they think we can add value to. It also speaks to our organic growth within our current client base, that I like what you guys did. It was successful. I like the numbers, but I also liked working with you. And I know that people don't want to talk about the soft side of business, but we like to talk about both.
Likability and that, yeah, I mean, that's a thing. that's a thing. I want to pivot to talent here real quick. And I use a nice little corporate word there, pivot. Christian, why should talent put this agency on their list?
Great question, and one that relates to, I think, what Michael was talking about. I think number one is we view every client assignment or project as a huge responsibility. People are putting their faith and trust in us for their brand and their objectives, and you don't often get that with the layers of agency personnel that you have to go through. You may think, well, look, my input here, and it may in fact be true that my input doesn't really matter. It's this part of a huge process that's really long. It's not the case here. Every single person here has responsibility and has the responsibility on a particular project. The second part of it is that doesn't mean it can't be fun. Oftentimes when we sit at the table with clients, it's the best part of their day, not because we're there, but because they're talking about things that are really, truly interesting, different, dynamic. They play in a different headspace, right? And if we're talking to our clients at Ford, half the day they may be talking to their, manufacturing suppliers about the widget and how much lower the price can get. And then all of a sudden they're like, which is important, but it doesn't necessarily ooze fun and excitement to get you out of bed in the morning now, does it? Talking about a Super Bowl activation or talking about how we can recreate the test drive experience. And so I think that's why talent would find us interesting. And to my previous point, we like to have fun. And so loving what you do is really important. And I think that's a place here that you can thrive.
Exactly. Last question. And I like this because it's a little bit of a thought exercise. Whether it is a current client or a marketer out there that maybe you'd like to get to know, maybe work with, which marketer or CMO do you want to say hi to? And you can say more than one. Let's not get too far over our skis and give me 50 of them, but like a few that just like, hey, we want to say hi to you.
Michael, you got a short list?
One of the more talented people that we've worked with in the past is a woman, Diana Frost, that she was a senior marketer at M&M's, and now she's the chief growth officer at Kraft. I think she runs a portfolio that is incredibly compelling. They've done terrific marketing work, so that they're engaged in great creative and great experiences. It's a portfolio that strategically is facing a lot of headwinds with, consumer spending slowing down in mass food with GLP-1s. Would love to reconnect with her and share what we can do for that portfolio. I think she's a terrific human being, and that adds all the more reason to want to work with her again.
All right, Christian, you?
Yeah, I've got two. One is probably expected for those that know me. Zach Brown is the CEO of McLaren, and with the rise in F1 and consumer engagement opportunities, I think there's a lot that we can bring, not just from a motorsport passion standpoint, but how do we really add explosive growth and connectability to those brands that feel like they operate in a different hemisphere to many Formula One fans that sit on the fringe. I think the second isn't a person, it's more of a brand, because this role has shifted. I think, and have thought for years, that the airline industry is in desperate need of experiential activation, surprise and delight moments. And they haven't needed it of late, just given how many people are jumping on airplanes. But I've got a passion for Southwest Airlines, and I'm not ashamed to say it. I think it's an incredible airline that has a really similar or symbiotic passion for what they do. And for years, I've been trying to crack down that door to bring some of our creativity to the space.
All right. I'm an Alaska guy myself, but that's the Portland, Seattle thing.
It's fine. Yeah. It's airline, still fits in.
You're fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
When you said Zach Brown, I was like, the band? Right. I was like, okay. That's cool.
Yeah.
But no, that's interesting. Formula One. Yeah. It's, listen, I was on the Max Verstappen train early, so I'm not now like playing for the home, You're
not alone. Many people start there, and then they slowly, like most Formula One champions, start to say, is it really this every weekend?
No. But no, I used to watch it when I was a kid too, because I thought that was great. So, well, that's cool. No, listen, Michael, Christian, always fun hearing the backstories. And I think it is interesting and to hear that, a lot of us came from a lot of different places, including the holding companies. And let's be honest, there were some very good things that we learned along the way, but this is our jam. This is what we believe in, and this is what we love, and we're going to stick with it. And that's the part of this that makes it so exciting, is that we can take these experiences, and especially as the industry changes, we can provide a little bit of a roadmap and a blueprint for those who might be thinking about, what? I just got laid off. What am I going to do next? Guess what? you can start an indie agency. You
Yeah,
absolutely can. What advice would you give to somebody that may be in that situation? Because it's true. This is a little bonus question. We're going to call it the bonus question here. What advice would you give? Because there is the reality that this is an ebb and flow business, and on the holding company side, there are layoffs. That happens. What advice would you give to somebody that may be in that situation?
Bet on you.
Yeah.
Just bet on, if you've got the hustle and you've got the heart, bet on yourself. You can always go get a job from somebody else down the line, but the clock is ticking to a degree on betting on you. You have total control. The idea that you go work for a company, maybe work there for 20 or 30 years, maybe have a pension, maybe have healthcare afterwards, like, doesn't exist anymore for the most part. And the big holding companies that give the illusion of being far more secure are really even less secure in some ways, because you may get laid off as part of a sweeping cost reduction that had nothing to do with your job, your client, or your performance. At the end of the day, this is about creative and about relationships. And if you've got something to say and you believe that that has some level of magnetism to the needs that are in the market, there's no better time than today to bet on yourself.
I love that. Christian, your thoughts?
I mean, I can't really say that more enthusiastically. I would also maybe just comically add that, you need to you will appreciate sleep more. It's kind of like having children. There's those moments of brilliance that you love, and then there's these other moments where there's pure panic. But
right.
Betting on yourself and seeing and realizing what the potential is in yourself and your team and the people that you surround yourself with, man, it's just been such an awesome journey, and I wouldn't trade it for anything, quite honestly.
And I think both of us happy if there's somebody, Doug, in the people that come to you that want to know what it's like, people that are on, your social feeds and whatnot. Email us, call us. We'll tell you the good, the bad, the ugly of what it's like to leave IPG or Gray, what it's like to start, what it's like to, be working on a couple sawhorses with a door as your desk.
Yep.
We've done it a number of times, some really good, some okay, never bad, and don't regret a moment of it.
I love it. I love it. Christian and Michael, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate the time, and best wishes for continued success.
Thank you, Doug.
Thanks, Doug.
Appreciate it.